Hi folks, Steven here. So this is going to be another Pokemon Go Community Day recap session here. If you have any comments, of course this is the Porygon Community Day. Has some interesting things to say about that Pokemon and whatnot. So we're going to take a look at some of that. I have a little bit of news at the end. Unfortunately, not as much as going on as I would like, but be sure to put in any questions and other stuff that you have. But as usual, I have a presentation, so let's go straight into that. So let's see. All right. So weather. You know, I always like to give you an idea of what the weather is like here in Madison, even though these Pokemon Go community days have not been too much outside. Of course, last month, Saturday, August 8th, was, let's see, we had a high of 88 and a low of 68, which were both fairly above normal. A little bit windy, and then I only have the weather for yesterday, even though the community day was today. Let's see, the high today, yesterday was 65 on a normal of 71, and the low was fairly chilly, 37. Look at the record, it was 32. Normal is 49 for a low here in mid-September, coming up on the equinox. Wind speed was relatively low yesterday. Today was a little bit warmer. I think it got into the low 70s, so a little bit nicer there for a high temperature, that's for sure. But that's kind of the weather there. Now, those of you who have been following my recent ones notice that I've mentioned that my phone has not been working so great for Pokemon Go. Well, as it turns out, Porygon isn't the only one in need of an upgrade, and that's exactly what I did yesterday. Yeah, so I finally went to the Apple Store and got a new phone. I guess I can show it right here. This is an iPhone SE. It's kind of about the same dimensions. I had an iPhone 6. I was honestly quite a holdout on it because I really liked having a headphone jack. And I started to realize, first of all, my phone was crashing a lot on Pokemon Go. A lot of other stuff was okay. Web browsing was getting a little in places as well. Some websites were not rendering super well. But I decided to finally go and get an upgrade, and so went to the Apple Store, which you can see the exterior of here in Madison, which is at the Hilldale Shopping Mall. It used to be at Westtown Mall. It moved here a couple years ago to get some more space. Have about like twice as much space as they did at the Westtown Mall. As you can see, they have some precautions outside. Of course, given the current circumstances, I did have to have a window to buy stuff and even to do shopping, and of course they've canceled a lot of their sessions. But I was able to get my new phone. I did order that online for pickup, and that all went relatively well. And you can see here, I've blurred out some of the faces, of course, but most of the folks here are in fact wearing masks, so good on them. A little public service announcement, I guess. Be safe out there. Let's see. So that takes care of that. But yeah, so of course last night I did take some time to play Pokemon Go on my new phone, and worked a lot better. One thing you'll notice with the new phone, not only did I have fewer issues with the app crashing on me, but I also had a better time. You'll see a lot better images in here and stuff like that. So, but I also managed to finish a 7th day of research, and I got a nice little Alolan Raichu, which is pretty neat. Not sure it was registered there. I don't think I had a regular Raichu, so this is pretty cool. I've always liked the design of Alolan Raichu. It's just so cool, and stuff like that. So, took care of that last night. But let's talk about today. And if you have any comments on our what's going on here and whatnot, please do put those in there, whatever you got and stuff like that. But this was the Porygon. Yeah. So just want to point out the name, obviously it's a play on Polygon, but also remember that in Japan, or in Japanese I should say, they have a little bit of confusion between R and L sounds. They don't really have a good one for either, and they kind of blur together. So yeah, maybe not the most original name, But I guess it works. Let's see. But you get the usual stuff. More Porygon in the wild. 5 surprise encounters with Porygon. With Snapshot, which I did not actually make use of, and I should have to get a few extra Porygon in there. 3 catch XP, so good bonus there. And of course, there's a ticket, as there usually is for these things, the Decoding Porygon Special Research Story. Available in the... Not quite enough space there. Maybe if I had gotten an iPhone 11 or iPhone 11 Pro, whatever the big one is, maybe it would have fit in there. But, yeah, so available in the shop, of course. Also, some other stuff. You may remember last year we had a community day. I think it was last year. Pretty sure it was last year. It was either very early this year. Actually, I think it might have been very early this year because it was the Rhydon day. I think it was like the last one they had. It was something in there. I know there was a Rhydon one. And of course, Rhydon, you can evolve from a Rhyhorn to a Rhydon, but if you want Rhyperior, well, that's a bit of a problem because you need I believe a Sinnoh Stone for that. And I don't believe there was any way to actually get one there. I think this is the time. Yeah, this is the time I was around Camp Randall Stadium earlier this year, I believe, for that one. And so that did not work out so great because I could not get the final evolution there because I didn't have any Sinnoh Stones. I think I might have one left over from this one, but they were very nice here. They kind of remedied that, thankfully. You can get the upgrade, so I think the first and second generation in Pokemon Go, they all have the specific items, so you get the, well, I guess that would be the second generation. I don't remember what happens for Gen 3. I know starting with Gen 4 you get a region-specific stone, so you get that Unova Stone, but for Gen 2 trade stuff you get the upgrade. There's also the metal coat and other stuff like that. So nice of them to have some way to get those here, which was very nice. Since otherwise you have multiple item evolutions, and not having access to those would not be good. I'm glad they kind of remedied that, and if they do other ones in the future that require an evolutionary stone, Eevee they kind of did a different way. Same with all the Gen 1 evolutions that normally require trade or a stone, and then Gen 2 they'd have those, and then Gen 3 I just don't remember. Alright, so that takes care of those. And of course you have the ticket for the event. Just $1 for the Decoding Porygon. You know, with my new phone, that ticket image is way better than it used to be, let me tell you. Much less pixelated with the new phone there, but it's basically the same deal as we've had since the Abra community or whatever it was the first one. Had you know, the usual 6-hour time period of the community day to get all your special work done for this. Okay. Now, I think some of this is conditional on buying the pass, and I'm not sure how much of it is. I think some of these appeared only after I had purchased the pass and the community started, but they might still be up there. And you know, you can check, especially if you're like in, I don't know, Alaska or Hawaii or something where this is still going on. Make sure you take advantage of these. First of all, you get the 3 remote raid passes, which is 1 Pokecoin for 3 remote raid passes, which is one awesome deal. And then you get, there's the daily box, which had a few items in it, but then you also have this bonus one, which has, let's see, Hyper Potions, Revives, and Great Balls. And then you also have 30 Ultra Balls. So even if that was conditioned on the event ticket, that's a pretty good deal for $1 of stuff you can get there. I forget what that works out to in Pokecoins for $1, but I think it's would normally be considerably more. There's also a Community Day box that had the usual stuff, Ultra Balls, Lucky Eggs, I think some Incubators or Star Pieces or something like that. Okay, so what we got next is, yes, of course, there's a little script that goes with the Community Day, as per usual. We've got Professor Willow coming in here. That Porygon have been appearing more frequently. Now, usually they tie this into some sort of thing there, like the Abra. They thought, oh, they're using teleport. That's why it looks like there's so many. No, there really are. This one, you know, One interesting thing, Porygon, of course, is a computer program, a virtual Pokemon. I believe that's actually its species nickname, the virtual Pokemon. And I guess you can breed it, so does that technically make it a virus? Let's see. But, so, all that aside, you get the usual stuff. You have to power up a Pokemon 10 times, catch a bunch of Porygon, and make some nice throws. You get some stuff there. And I'm not sure why the incense, you'll notice here it has the green top, and then later you'll see one with an orange top. I don't think there's any functional difference. I don't know why that is. If anyone does know, please let me know if there's a particular reason for that. Alright, so next one we got. Yes, the regular versus shiny comparison. So yeah, I only got one shiny Porygon over the course of this whole thing, and the main difference is it's got very, very blue and purple instead of red and blue, or red and teal actually is probably what the closer one on there. So kind of nice there. You know, we've seen other types of, well, we've seen the TCG card Cool Porygon back in the day. That was, I think, just shinier and stuff like that. But I'm not sure how much I have to really say. It's nice. It's definitely a distinct color difference, which is nice. I'm not aware of any like programming or computer science reason for this particular color choice. I'm sure it meant something to the folks who chose it as a Game Freak, but that's kind of the case there. Alright, so remote raids. I had a couple that went quite well, and one that just didn't pan out. So this first one here is an Almanite. It's fun seeing that giant size, because you get this sort of like monster sea creature vibe from it. So it's always fun to see Pokemon like that giant size, especially for an Almanite that's kind of otherwise very abstract. But this was a level 1 raid that popped up, and I did take advantage of it. That worked pretty well. Not very difficult to get through there, especially with my Alolan Executor having Solar Beam, a 4 times effective move, and Omnite just was not a match for me. One thing I noticed there, though, on the summary afterwards, is you get a bonus. Usually there was one for gym control or something like that, and I don't know if they've gotten rid of that permanently, or if it was just because I was the only person there, or contribution by team isn't on there either. And instead they have a speed bonus. So I beat that in about 18 seconds. And that gave me an additional 8, let's see, what are those? Premier Balls, not Cherish Balls. Cherish Balls are different. These are Premier Balls. And that's almost as much as I got for boss defeated and damage bonuses. So 18 certainly did not need that many to catch a relatively easy Pokemon there. Yep, so this one did not work out so great. So not long into there was a Mega Pidgeot that spawned. Now I haven't really done any Mega Evolution raids as of yet. Just starting to get into that. I got some stuff for Beedrill eventually. But there was a Mega Pidgeot that spawned there. I did invite some folks. One of them did drop in, but there were only like 2 of us, so he kind of hopped back out. I don't know what it is, why I have such lousy luck attracting other folks, even when I get in there right at the start of a raid. Because there's a bunch of apartment buildings in this neighborhood and stuff like that. You'd think there'd be other folks playing Pokemon Go, and there's a fair number of houses that should still be within range, I think. This particular one, I believe, was in a location that should have worked out. So, unfortunately, we just didn't attract enough folks. I know some folks have had some definite problems with Mega Evolution and how it's done. I don't know if the raids are, how big a component those are. Yeah, this one didn't work out. Alright, let's see. So I completed those tasks, and we get to the second part. Let's see, protecting cyberspace from suspicious activity. I'm not sure if this is from the first one or the second set, as far as Willow's remarks there, but that's kind of interesting. Of course, speaking of the whole protection thing, Pokemon yesterday put out a tweet that said, Porygon did nothing wrong. You know, that's an interesting way of phrasing it on multiple levels. I'll let you decide what you want to think of that. But in any case, of course, we've got our second set of tasks: catch 15 Porygon for an upgrade, transfer 10 Pokemon, and evolve 3 Porygon into Porygon 2. So That's where having all those upgrades that you can earn really comes in handy. In the meantime, speaking of things that look, Pokemon that look really cool when you make them gigantic, here's a Nosepass raid, and of course I had a nice Machamp there, so that worked out very, very well. Didn't take too much damage there. I think even less than my Executor. It took a little longer, I think, for me to get through it, but having that giant stone idol up there is pretty neat, I have to say. And, even though it's a level 1 raid, you do get a decent chunk of experience, several thousand for it, so it's not like it's worthless or anything. Alright, so here's where it gets fun. You get the third set of tasks. Yes, extraterrestrial exploration. A lot of this stuff I'm sure is all pulled from various Porygon and whatnot, Pokédex entries over the course of the game. And it's I'm sure they've pulled out some of the stuff, but that was one I missed. I'm not a super deep memorizer of this, but it definitely had some fun with that, although I do have some suggestions for later. So we see the usual tasks for this level, though. You see 3 great curveball throws. Not fun. I'd have gotten, I guess, somewhat better, but this time I still had problems. I think I just wasn't, I needed to sit down somewhere and take care of that task and not try to do that while moving about. It's just a lot harder that way. I think I was getting kind of impatient. Porygon has a fairly large footprint, and that gives you a pretty good size for the great level of the shrinking circle. But I had a lot of difficulty there. So you have to evolve a Porygon 2, you get some golden raspberries, and transfer some Pokemon to get a Sinnoh Stone. So all that stuff kind of goes in there. You notice you get the instance that has the red or the orange top for some reason, and you get a rocket radar and some Stardust. So obviously, aside from the Porygon, the great curveballs, that wasn't too difficult. And I did manage to get a Porygon Z. I did take the one shiny I had. I decided I would evolve it all the way. And of course, the special attack you get if you make it all the way to Porygon Z is Tri-Attack. To be honest, I've always felt that was a fairly iconic Porygon move, even though it's a TM these days and practically anything can learn it. And they've made it more interesting over time. But and then you got Lock On as the other one, which I guess is another normal move. So that'll be kind of interesting. The Porygon, the shiny one, didn't have super great stats, but excuse me. So Porygon Z is a very interesting little history around it, because of course Z looks kind of like it too. I do wonder if they had more characters in Generation 2, they would have called it Porygon 2.0 or something like that instead of just Porygon 2. But Willow here is mentioning the upgrade, or the, I guess it's the dubious disc if they were still using those evolution items, but they weren't when Go went to Gen 4. The instability. It's kind of interesting because Porygon Z you don't see a lot of, but because it's an evolution of Porygon 2, you see a lot of Eviolite Porygon 2 out there, which is kind of interesting and in competitive play. It's used on a lot of Trick Room teams. So there's that kind of weird thing where the middle stage it's probably the most famous middle stage in all of Pokemon, to be honest, I think. At least as far as competitive play, it's the one you're going to see the most just because of that weird thing there. Although I suppose if you count baby, stuff like Chansey is a middle stage, and that's obviously a very famous Pokemon. So maybe that's not quite true, but you kind of get the idea there. But yeah, so that is kind of an interesting dynamic. And of course, when you complete one of these in the final set, which are all completed in the 404, that you just have to claim them, as you get a chance to capture the top level Pokemon there. So I got a Porygon Z regular. Has some pretty decent attack stat there. Defense HP not quite as good, but still decent. So so that was good. The Porygon Z, though, since this was my first time seeing it in a catching situation, it just darts all over the place. My goodness. You can kind of see it's kind of gone crazy from whatever was on the dubious disc. So very interesting evolution. I do wonder if they'll do anything else with Porygon over time. There's other places they could go with it, I suppose. You also have to consider, a video game having a virtual character like this, that as a species of Pokemon, is kind of a thing there. All right, so a few suggestions. First off, the special research writing, it was decent. I'm glad they pulled from some Pokédex entries that folks had missed over the years about Porygon and its evolutions. But I would like to see, really nice to see some computer jokes. They don't have to be super deep, obviously. I don't want them to have to pull in like obscure operating system jokes or stuff like that. But Porygon's ability, at least one of them, is download, and I don't remember there being a download reference in there, and that would have been a good thing to toss in there. Otherwise, some other Porygon things. So I suppose they also could have made it somewhat of a rivalry between Porygon line and Rotom, since you've got sort of that virtual / invading appliances. It feels like you could do something in there because they have the Poryphone in Pokemon Masters. So I would have liked to see them do a little more with that. Like I said, I don't expect them. I know I'm a computer programmer by trade, so there's some really deep places they could have gone, but probably wouldn't have because it would be too obscure. But it would be nice to get a little more computer terminology in there. All right, and then the other thing is they really got to diversify the tasks. I don't know. I feel like there should be something with Porygon, like the virtual nature of it could have led to some sort of unique task. I can't think of what it is at the moment, but if you have any ideas, go ahead and give us a comment. We always appreciate that. I just feel like there is something in the game that could do that. I mean, the transfer stuff is always in there, which is kind of too bad because, well, Porygon was kind of originally associated with the Pokeball transfer system, which would have made more sense if they hadn't already been using that for practically every other community day that was in there. If they had brought it out here, people would have been, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So I don't know what it is. If they can just come up with something, I'm not sure what it is. Spinning, if it weren't for the quarantine, they could probably be a little more adventurous and have people have to spin a certain number of Pokestops, like you're connecting a network or something like that. I don't know, but I feel like they could have done something a little more original here, and I would like to see something like that. And then curveballs, they're still tough. There were times I really felt like I should have connected on a Pokemon or made it inside the circle, or it just didn't work for some reason, and I don't know why that is, and I wish I had a better idea. But they're still kind of giving me trouble, and I'm getting better at them. Once I sat down and actually tried to do them, I had better luck and got through that more quickly. But, yeah. All right. So, before we head out here, I have a few things I want to mention. First of all, a quick plug for a documentary on Netflix, as it's called The Social Dilemma. And I should warn you, this is kind of aimed at the teenager and above audience in terms of like content. But this is a documentary put out by some folks I've listened to. It's basically talking about sort of the they do give credit to some of the good stuff about technology and social media, but also they go into some of the really difficult or the really problematic stuff, like the trend towards division and other stuff like that, and how it works really hard to get you back on there. And I turned off a few notifications on some of my stuff. As someone who runs a YouTube channel and other stuff, I can't quite, I can't disconnect from everything even if I wanted to. But you should watch it. Like I said, kind of a 13 or 14 and up type of content there. I kind of wish they would repackage it into something that would be good for like a younger audience that they can maybe give to schools and stuff like that. Would be a good idea, to be honest. But I would say check it out if you haven't done so already. It'll give you I knew a lot of the stuff going in about like algorithms and how they sort of can be really aggressive at getting folks on there, because I call it, instead of Big Brother, I call it Big Dollar is watching you, because that's basically what they want. They want you on there as much as they can to get money. and they need to know as much as they can learn about you to sort of poke and prod you, which, you know, basically my advice with social media is to make sure you realize when you've hit the point of diminishing returns and when you can find something else to do with your time. I know that's hard right now, but Social Dilemma. Wanted to put out a little plug for that. All right. So I've got one more thing to talk about. Those of you who have been watching my other live streams where I've been playing the randomized Pokemon Red have maybe heard I've been working on a Pokemon TCG for Game Boy randomizer. It technically already existed. I've enhanced it and added a bunch of new features, including just in the last few weeks. I added the ability to play as Mint, who is the girl character in the Japan-only sequel, Card GB2. We did talk about that a little bit during our discussion earlier this year. I also have the ability, you know, there were 2 illusion cards. There's a Mew and a Venusaur that you're only supposed to be able to get from the card pop feature, and because of the way that's structured, you probably never did get those. And I added a way to either put them into the in-game sets or to make them available via the Challenge Cup. So that was kind of a thing there. And then it turns out, if you've ever felt the club leaders or club masters and the grandmasters and Ronald in that game have a little bit of a better setup, they should have a lousier setup every once in a while, and they don't, well, you're not wrong. So it turns out that actually there's some code that lets boss characters, some of the higher level characters, manipulate their opening hand, so they always have at least 2 basic Pokemon, some energy, and the top of their deck has some stuff. And I figured out a little thing and added a checkbox to let you turn that off. The game is not really super hard to begin with, to be honest, but I did want to sort of point that out. And I sort of figured out a way to do that there. I told someone about this. Can you do the reverse? Can you make it so everyone has that ability? And maybe that'll be in a future version. But we'll be coming out to it soon. Is this new feature? Oh, this looks interesting, doesn't it? Take a look at those pictures down there. That guy looks familiar. Like he might have been in the game, but he might be taking a bigger role now. So yeah, so you look on the left there. Boy, that guy looks familiar. See, he has an interaction with Ronald. You can see him on the overworld map. And yes, I am adding the possibility or the ability to play as Imakuni. It actually wasn't super difficult once I identified where the data I needed to sort of transplant was in the image in the ROM. And of course, I made it, sometimes you would swap characters. So like if I added the ability to play as Ronald, I might change the Ronald to be the default character, which by the way, his default name is Mark, normally. But I decided here the best option was to have Imakuni meet Imakuni. I was kind of limited on characters. You can only have 6 characters in a player name, at least in this version. So that was about as far as I could go with it. But, yep, they battle each other. So, look forward to that as an upcoming feature in the randomizer. I hope to have that out by probably next weekend. It's actually come along quite nicely. I want to do a little more testing with it and ask a few questions to some folks, but yeah, and that should open the door to a lot more of these. Again, I want to do kind of Ronald and some of the other characters in the game and stuff like that. So that'll be fun. Alright, so that should be the end of the slideshow. Alright, let's go back here. But that is going to, let's see, there we go. Alright, so I'll check the time here. Yeah, it's been about half an hour. Alright, well thank you very much to everyone who came in here. I am working with Anne. I should hopefully be getting the audio soon for Hey You Pikachu. I am in the process of editing together our stuff from the what is it? Oh, it's the discussion we did earlier this month. If you haven't seen it already, it is Stadium 2. Remember, our next discussion, sometime either late this month or early next month, hopefully, will be the music of the first 2 Smash Brothers games. We're going to pick out a couple songs from there and sort of talk about Smash Brothers for the N64 and Smash Brothers Melee. So looking forward to both of those. But otherwise, all right. Well, thank you very much, folks.